Hi, my name's James, and I'm a tourist visiting Guinea from the UK. And I'm really happy today to be speaking to Le Courrier d'Afrique. Having been a tourist in numerous countries across Africa, I think about 13 or 14 in total, I would pick out three that I think that have really impacted me quite deeply. The first one being Mozambique. I think as a tourist destination, it has immense potential because of the beauty of its beaches, the friendliness of its people, the really nice cuisine. And I really had a fantastic time in Mozambique. Secondly, another country I would really pick out would be Tunisia because of the combination of historical and modern culture that it has, and also the friendliness of the people, the mixture of Berber and Arab cultures, and also influences from different countries in the world. And also, I really enjoyed Sierra Leone. I've been just there on this trip as well. And again, the friendliness of the people and the sort of the untouched nature and the potential that it has for tourism is fantastic. So I would pick out from my experience, there are these three countries that I've really enjoyed. I've also been to South Africa, and that's a very, very impressive country. It's quite a mainstream tourist destination, though. So, yeah, those three countries, Mozambique, Tunisia, and Sierra Leone, I have really enjoyed traveling in. So I visited South Africa, Lesotho, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, Mozambique, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Yeah. I find that from the African people that I've met here living in the different countries of Africa that I've visited, I would say that the hospitality and culture is something very, very strong. And especially like the friendliness, the smiles on people's faces. In a lot of countries, like, joking with people, it's like a very fun experience. And like, I've really enjoyed getting to know what their daily life is like. In some cases, some parts of their life seem to be quite difficult, but no, despite that, they haven't let that kind of get into their spirit. They still have. I'm speaking very generally here, but like most people have been extremely kind, very very welcoming, and really happy to share their culture. And another thing I really enjoyed doing here is learning a few words of a local language, because it's not enough to just speak a little bit of French and English. Of course, it's getting to know like local languages, even if it's just a few words. You can see after just that, I've really enjoyed how people's faces have just like completely, you know, opened up. And that's the experience of tourism in Africa that I've really enjoyed. So in terms of the route for development, me just as a tourist, what I've seen and what I can imagine being a good strategy was to um, have faith in the huge amounts of potential that African countries and African economies have. Um, Resources that a lot of countries, especially Guinea or in West Africa, as I'm seeing at the moment, have, is something that should benefit the people at large. That should be translated into jobs for people and the increase in welfare, the increase in people's quality of life. I think that, especially, to build an independent Africa, African voices, the people of Africa need to be responsible for, and they need to be heard and they need to be respected by African people and also by international audiences as well. So listening to the people of Africa and like how they want to create their own future is a really important thing. If I had the power to change just one thing, again, it's very difficult to talk about so many different countries because there's more than 50 countries in the whole of Africa, right? But generally speaking, I would want it to be for the governments of Africa to understand that when you invest in the people invest in the country, and it's a positive cycle. Yeah, and it seems as though some more than others, but some countries in Africa are stuck in a negative cycle whereby um, governments have control over all the resources. They don't feed and invest back into the people, and therefore you have a lot of people and huge inequality with a lot of people living in poverty, while there is just the 1%. This is incredibly rich. So I think the confidence that an empowered wider country in Africa, of any African countries, is positive for development in total. My message to young Africans, specifically young Africans, would to be that um, instead of looking to, if everybody wants to have a better quality of life, right? That investing in your own community is a much more satisfying thing rather than seeking to simply escape your community. Africa has so much potential and it needs people to have concentrated effort and concentrated ambition, to be poured into the country itself and for people to also be the example. You know, as a career, I'm a teacher, and I always tell my students that be the change that you want to be. So, for example, if you want to see clean streets, keep a clean house, and organize your community and your neighborhood to come together to gather rubbish in it, you just do it independent of the government and don't use the lack of public services as an excuse to uh, to let your community get worse, right? Also, similarly, if you want to see better healthcare, then take responsibility for your own health with good habits. For example, frequently, paying attention to sanitary conditions in the kitchen so that you don't get sort of food poisoning. These sorts of things. It's a matter of education and a matter of realizing that your own actions lead to positive outcomes. And when it starts small, it then grows and it can become like a bigger positive effect. So that would be the advice, I suppose, or my thoughts that I would share with young people across the African continent.
What you think about this newspaper investigation, Courrier d'Afrique?
So I think that the project of Le Courrier d'Afrique is a really noble one. I think it's one, especially uniting the countries of Africa. That's an objective that needs to be followed, and especially because it comes from Africa, it is African news about Africa for African people and for the world to then see it, instead of just simply seeing Africa as a continent that is sort of presented through the lens of European or Middle Eastern or other international news organizations. So it's really nice to see something like a homegrown sort of movement in order to present Africa to itself and to the world. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today with Le Courrier d'Afrique, an organization which I think is doing really, really great work in order to unite African voices and to improve the development of the continent in general. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it grows and how the effects of this great organization will benefit the countries of Africa. And I wish all the best.